Hey, day 276 of my not so morning walk. All right, here's what happened. Got up this morning and the headache was ridiculous. There was a pain right behind my left eyeball that was just beyond belief. I decided at that moment I was going to work from home and I would not be walking in the morning. I figured, well, it'll eventually go away and I'll just walk later. Well, that's what we're doing, walking later in the afternoon now, and that's definitely cooled off. We're in the 60s now, which is fine. It's more normal rather than the 80s for the high. But it is a new month, and as you saw, I wrapped up the weight numbers for September in yesterday's post, and the trend is good, except for the last few days. I have been putting on weight. In fact, I've put on about 8 pounds now. I hit 340 again this morning and going up the wrong direction. It's interesting, I'm wearing my full pair of jeans today, and it has resistance that those little short shorts don't have. Yeah, that's interesting. What else is going on? Well, I do want to kind of follow up on the theme that we've been running here most of last week, which was a little bit about my health history. I wasn't supposed to be, getting your sympathy or anything. The whole point of this is, if you get regular checkups, if you get treated early, if you nip it in the bud, as I like to say, it's going to go easier for you. If you maintain your health, if you keep fit, when you do get sick, and I'm going to say when you do get sick, it will be easier. So again, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, to try to catch up, get back to where I had been in my health, and try to make my retirement years pleasant with good health, strength, and all those things. So that's my story, and you can do what you want, but hey, that's just it is. You listen to your own body, make your own health decisions. I just wanted to share with you what happened to me and what I'm dealing with now. One more thing before I go. As many of you know, I'm a huge fan of a podcast, or V podcast, or whatever they call. Dad Bods and Beards, which started off on the Copper Johns website, and now has moved to its own website, its own identity. It's its own separate corporation, for that matter. It's something that Logan Peterson has been spearheading, and he brings Tyson along for the ride, and they do it in a nice studio with good lighting, and the monochromatic look is interesting, and it really doesn't bother me because it's the content that we're supposed to be paying to, not the bright colors in the room. Well, yesterday's episode I heard today, and it's one of the most emotional ones for me yet. The very first one that I ever saw, or at least the first one I remember, which left me very emotional, in tears practically, was the one where Logan went into detail about his past, the struggles he's had, what he's done to get his life back in order. Bipolar is nothing to play around with. My family knows it well. I have family members with it now. I've often wondered if I inherited some of the traits of bipolar. So it's something that I have known about basically my whole life. My mother didn't, pull punches when she told me stories about her mother, because I didn't know her very well. She died when I was very young. And my grandma and my mom did leave behind a little bit of the information regarding her treatments back in the old days. But my grandmother, when she would get in a fit, she'd get manic, she'd get angry, whatever, depressed. She would write things that very much disturbed and bothered my mother. So a lot of the older letters from my grandmother are all ripped up in pieces because my mother excised the parts that she found disturbing. That's kind of a shame. So it's left to me to wonder what it is exactly that my mother was upset about. But I'm thinking it was that she was just angry at people and writing terrible things and being very, out of her mind. So, yeah, when I saw that podcast to learn that here's a young man who's had to deal with it, I was totally blown away. I mean, here he's so open and honest about it, and he's helped people. That's the beautiful thing. Logan, you've done a lot for people. You've done a lot for me. In fact, you inspired me, you and Tyson both, inspired me to just know as much about you two as I could, because I as I told you, from that day I said, you're my people. You speak to me, I resonate with you, I understand where you're coming from, both you and Tyson. And I said, you're somebody I'm supposed to know. That's why I went out to Utah. I wanted to meet you in person. I really felt it in my heart. There was something pushing me to make that trip. I'm starting to wonder if it was something divine and happening there. There's a lot of that going on this year. Things that I can't explain otherwise. At any rate, the episode yesterday was cool. He had an excellent guest on. A guest that normally I kind of expect to see on Mayim Bialik's podcast, because she has a tendency to bring on her fellow child actors, former actors as children from the 70s, 80s, people she knew growing up on television, and their guest is one of those. So it's like, gosh, am I watching the right podcast? But they snagged a good one here. He's excellent. So go ahead and watch that episode, plus the parts that made me cry. Tyson and Logan both made me cry. They went for my heart, man. They just so if you haven't been listening or watching Dad Bods and Beards, which again is distributed in many places. I do the YouTube version because I like to watch them. Do it. They're just two regular guys. They're just people who have experiences and want to help others. Bring on guests who can talk about it and make things a little better in our world. They're doing that, and I appreciate everything they do. So that's why how I want to close up today's show, today's episode. I'll be back in the morning. Hope you'll join me then. Bye for now.